By the 1950s, Cuba languished under the dictatorship of Fulgencio Batista. After seizing power in a military coup and canceling elections, Batista ruled with an iron fist, his regime marked by corruption, brutality, and repression. Political opponents were jailed, freedoms vanished, and in the shadows the Cuban people began to dream of change. One of those dreamers was a young lawyer named Fidel Castro. Denied a chance to run for office after Batista's coup, Fidel came to believe that only revolution could restore justice. On July 26, 1953, he led an audacious attack on the Moncada barracks. The assault failed. Dozens were killed. Fidel was captured. At his trial, he didn't defend himself. He made a declaration: "Condemn me. It does not matter. History will absolve me." Imprisoned but unbroken, Fidel emerged as a national symbol. In 1955, he was released and went into exile in Mexico. There, he met a kindred spirit, an Argentine doctor named Ernesto Che Guevara. Together, they formed a new movement, and in November 1956, aboard a small yacht called Granma, Fidel, Che, Raul Castro, and 79 others set sail for Cuba. Their arrival was a disaster. Ambushed by Batista's forces, only a handful survived. But in the misty mountains of the Sierra Maestra, the survivors found refuge and rebirth. There, among the peasants and forests, the revolution came to life. There were a few, poorly armed, hunted, but they had something stronger than weapons: the will of a people. Local farmers brought food, women like Celia Sanchez and Haide Santa Maria carried messages and supplies, and the guerrillas began to strike back. With each skirmish, their legend grew. Che Guevara emerged as a fearless commander. Camilo Cienfuegos, a charismatic and brave leader, led daring raids. Fidel, calm and resolute, became the heart of the rebellion. And as Batista's army bombed villages and tortured innocents, the people turned to the rebels not just as warriors, but as liberators. For 2 long years, they fought in jungles, in fields, and on rooftops, until finally, in December 1958, it all came to a head. Che's column captured the city of Santa Clara, derailing a government train and routing its troops. Batista's military, demoralized and outmaneuvered, crumbled. On January 1, 1959, Batista fled Cuba under the cover of darkness. The following week, Fidel Castro entered Havana. Crowds lined the streets. Tears flowed. Cuba had been reborn. The revolution's promises were sweeping: land for the landless, literacy for the forgotten, and dignity for the poor. Prisons were emptied of political prisoners. Mansions and plantations were nationalized. Foreign monopolies were cast out. But soon justice turned to vengeance. Revolutionary courts sentenced Batista's men to death. Elections were postponed indefinitely. And as the U.S. turned away, Cuba turned to the Soviet Union. The island that had once danced to the rhythm of American jazz now marched to the beat of socialist revolution. In time, the revolution would face blockades, invasions, and the looming threat of nuclear war. But through it all, Fidel Castro remained, a symbol of defiance to some, a tyrant to others. He would rule for nearly half a century. But in January 1959, in those first euphoric days, the Cuban people believed in something bigger than any one man. They believed in change, in liberation, in the power of the people to rise, armed with nothing but conviction, and claim their future. That was the heart of the Cuban Revolution, a story of fire and sacrifice, of dreams realized and dreams deferred, of one man's vision and an entire nation's will to rise. Viva la Revolución!